Good morning, Year 8. This is your Wednesday or Thursday lesson, depending on which days of the week you are working through your science lessons this week. And this lesson is on plant minerals. Can you please write the title, Plant Minerals, underline it, write today's date, underline that as well, and then we will think about our learning objectives today. When you've done that, our learning objectives today are three things. We are going to identify which minerals plants need. We're going to describe what happens to plants if they don't have these minerals. And then finally, we're going to describe how plants can get minerals. Before you look at the pictures, I'd like you to write down the keywords for this lesson that you can see on the side there. The keywords for this lesson are nitrates, phosphates, potassium, magnesium, deficiency, and fertilizers. Write those in your book underneath your title. You can pause the video to do this. Once you've done that, I'd like you to think, what is the link between these two pictures? Do you know what the picture on the right is showing? Those legs, what is that showing? And can you think of any link between these two pictures? Once you've had a think, you may have known that the picture on the right shows the legs of somebody suffering from a disease called rickets. Now, rickets is a disease caused by a deficiency, which means that there isn't enough of vitamin D or calcium. So that probably gives you a clue as to the picture on the left, the leaf. The leaf is also deficient. It doesn't have enough of a type of mineral. So that's the link between those two pictures. They are both showing deficiencies in minerals. We're going to find out what the leaf deficiencies are next. Now, you will have already written these ones down from your keywords, but what do these elements have in common? There's nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium. The title of the lesson will give you a clue. These are all the minerals that plants need for healthy plant growth, and we're going to have a look at how each mineral affects the plant growth in turn. Right, your job now is to copy down this table. Give yourself enough space, give yourself at least 3 lines per box. So you want mineral deficiency, description of the plant, and what is the mineral for. You probably want between half a page to a page for this table, and we're going to fill it in a second. So pause the video and get the table drawn out. To fill in the table, here's our first picture. This is a picture of a leaf that has a deficiency in magnesium. Now what I'd like you to do is have a look at this picture, and underneath where it says description of the plant and magnesium, I'd like you to write in your table what should the leaf look like and what does this leaf look like. So what colour should a leaf be, but what colour is this leaf that doesn't have enough magnesium? Write that in your table now and we will see if you are correct. And here's what you should have written down. Don't make it too complicated, nice and simple. If it doesn't have enough magnesium, then a plant's leaves will look yellow. So make sure you've written something in your table under magnesium that the leaves look yellow. Do that before we go on to our next leaf. Here's our next leaf. This one comes under phosphorus. Have a look at this leaf and write the description in the table underneath phosphorus. Leave yourself a little bit of room because there is a little bit more information that I need to give you, but you can just talk about the leaves. Okay, if you wrote down that the leaves turn purple if they don't have enough phosphorus, well done. You could see a purpley tinge on those leaves there, and that's what happens if they are deficient in phosphorus. The thing that the picture didn't show us, because we couldn't see it, was it also affects root growth. So can you add to your table poor root growth under phosphorus? Next picture here is for potassium. Have a look at the leaf and write the description of what has happened to this leaf in the table underneath potassium. Okay, as you could see in the picture, the leaves were not in a very good state. they had turned yellow, but they also had brown patches on them. Brown patches mean that the leaf is dead in those places. So can you make sure you've written something about having yellow leaves with also brown or dead patches on them? The last picture here is nitrogen. Again, have a look at the picture. What does it show you? Write down what you can see and leave a little bit of space because there's one more detail that I'm going to give you as well. Okay, well done. At this point, you have got one side of your table totally filled out. The last one was nitrogen, and what you could see was that the leaves were turning yellow. That tends to happen to the older leaves, so after a while they will turn yellow if they don't have enough nitrogen. The thing that the picture didn't really show us was that the plant just doesn't grow very well. So can you add that last bit of detail in, and then one half of your table is complete. After you've done that, I'd like you to read what you've put so far, because what we need to fill out is what is that mineral for? So our descriptions of the plants have given us some clues there. Let's look at potassium as an example, so the top one, where it says that if it doesn't get enough potassium, you get yellow leaves and brown dead patches on those leaves. So what do we know about potassium? Why do plants need potassium? Have a little think, and we are going to think about all of them in a second and get that table complete. Okay, filling in the last bit of our table here, we can see that if a plant doesn't have enough potassium, it's got yellow leaves and dead leaves. So potassium helps create healthy leaves and flowers. You can add that to your table. Phosphorus, we saw that leaves actually turned purple, but what's really important is it shows poor root growth. So phosphorus is important for healthy roots of a plant. In nitrogen deficiency, old leaves tend to turn yellow and the plant just isn't growing very well. So nitrogen is for healthy growth of a plant. And lastly, magnesium. The leaves look really yellow. Now, hopefully you can think and remember what that green pigment in a plant is called. It's really important. It's for photosynthesis. It is chlorophyll. If you got that, well done. So magnesium is really important because it helps the plant to make chlorophyll. And without that green colour, those leaves look really yellow. So use that information to fill out your table, and then that is complete. Right, time for a check-in and a memory test without looking at your book. But let's go back to our learning objectives. Can you now identify which minerals plants need? There were 4 of them. Have a little think, see how many you can remember. If you can remember 3 or 4 out of 4, you've done really, really well. And we can tick off that we can identify which minerals plants need. If you couldn't quite get all of them, look back, read them again, and try to get them in your memory. You need to know which minerals plants need. Can you also now describe what happens to plants if they don't have these minerals? Again, without looking back, think about the pictures that you saw, think about what was wrong with those plants. How many can you remember? Look back and get the ones that you weren't sure of. And then we can say that we have completed learning objective 1 and 2. Well done. We're going to head on to our last learning objective now, and we are going to describe how plants can get minerals. Right, here we have a picture that is a guide to nutrient deficiency symptoms. Remember that keyword today. We've got deficiency means that there isn't enough of something. Just want you to think about and write down your idea. Who might this be aimed at? Who might need a guide like this? Who's it going to be useful for? As you know, we are trying to think about where do plants get their minerals from. So what normally happens is minerals get added to soil when plants around the other plant die or when leaves fall on top of the soil. So those dead plants and those fallen leaves, all of the minerals inside them get added to the soil. Can you remember which part of a plant gets all of the nutrients and all of the minerals from the soil? I'm sure you can. Did you say roots? If you did, you are right. Well done. But we've got a problem because when crops are harvested, they're removed from the ground. So that doesn't happen. So in this case, the soil will not contain enough of the minerals needed for healthy plants. Does that give you a clue about our previous question? Who do you think needs that guide about nutrient deficiency? Who needs to know about giving minerals to plants? If you were thinking farmers, you are absolutely right. Farmers and people that work in agriculture have to know about plant minerals, and they have to be able to give plants minerals if they can't get them naturally from dead plants. So they use fertilizers. I'd like you to have a go at summarizing the information on this page. Really important to know how to summarize something. I want you to pick out what you think is the really important information and write down just a couple of sentences for notes. Pause the video and do that now. Here's an example of some fertilizer labels. Now you can see that both of these, we've got the muck and magic fertilizer, and we've got the fruitful general purpose fertilizer. And both of them up at the top, you can see that they are called NPK fertilizers. Points if you can think what NPK might stand for. Remember, we had 4 minerals. Those are the letters for 3 of them. Have a little think, what are they? It is nitrogen. It is not potassium, don't fall into that trap. Potassium is not P, that is phosphorus. And K is potassium, so you've got nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then underneath you can say that it contains magnesium as well. So fertilizers tend to be called NPK, just showing that it's got all the good stuff in them. And really well done, Year 8. At the end of this lesson, you should now know which minerals plants need. You should know what happens to plants if they don't have these minerals, and you know how plants can get minerals, both naturally and artificially with a little bit of help from us and from farmers. We've got a task coming up, so make sure you're comfortable with all of those 3 things and then have a go at what's next. Okay, and this is what I would like you to do, Year 8. You have got an option here. You can do one of 2 things. I don't want you to do both, just choose one, and I only want you to spend about 10 minutes doing this. You can either make a leaflet for farmers that could help them to decide which mineral their plant is missing. You should include an image of a healthy plant that farmers can compare to one of their own. So you can draw an unhealthy plant and a healthy plant and show them which mineral is missing. Or if you don't fancy that, I'd like you to design a label or a bottle for a fertilizer product. You've got to come up with a name, you've got to show an ingredient list, and you've got to show the benefits to the plant. Remember, you should be selling your fertilizer, so you've got to make it as good as possible. Don't spend too long, about 10 minutes, and then once you are finished, really well done, I want you to head on over to Show My Homework, where there will be a very, very quick quiz about the lesson today. Well done, Year 8.